My neighbor, she's there.
That's right.
I see y'all every night. We're always going.
Knocking everything over. The only thing that you said, deal this morning. Head out the street. Thank
Y'all
you.
remember here already?
It's been raining in our backyard. She called me to work. Rolled up there.
Of course, you know, I mean, I'm not exactly
Chicken type.
right, so I'm sure run out of there and
She called me and I said, call for the work. She called for the work. I said, no, we don't have company here. And then she called me back. She said, they're picking that here up. I said, Chance probably saw it. No.
You know, I've learned to take credit for things I don't deserve. So I get blamed for things, and I'm gonna take credit for that. Yes,
You were very clear. Thank
I
you
got
so
your
much.
beer out of there. Yeah, good to see y'all.
Chaz, how you doing? Good. How are y'all?
Hey there, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
Good. You see you.
You too. Long time no see. That's right. Need to do okay.
Doing all right. We've had some health issues.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear
Most officers are
Oh,
okay.
good. Call after tributes, and we can turn it around.
I will. I appreciate that.
Good to see you.
The mayor was there. I couldn't hear you. Good.
Is there a sign machine? I can always
You hear that ring? Last week.
It's 4 o'clock. I'll call the Columbia Municipal Planning Commission meeting to order. I'll start with a verbal roll call.
Councilman Coleman,
Here.
Dr. Martin,
Here.
Mayor Mulder,
Here.
Mr. Shannon, Mr. Sloan,
Here.
Ms. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Goetz.
Here. We have a quorum present. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. We have a little bit of a special opening that I'd like to pass the gavel over to Mayor Mulder to kind of start the meeting, and then we'll dive into the business, but I want to hand it over to Mayor Mulder.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you're here for the Planning Commission meeting, you are at the right place. But if you'll allow us just a few minutes of your time before we get to the official business for some otherwise also very important business. There's a gentleman in the room this evening who served on this Planning Commission for 12 years, and his name is Ray Pace. You may know him, Ray, if you'll just give us a little wave there. There he is sitting on the front row next to former Mayor Dean Dickey. But Ray served on this board and this commission not only during a time of some of the most exponential growth our community has ever seen, but he served on this board with distinction. He did his homework. He read every piece of material that came through the staff report, and in fact, not only did he read all the materials, he was also known, infamous or not, to go to the properties that are under consideration. May or may not have trespassed a time or two, but he was so committed to the job, he wanted to actually put his feet on the ground and see what it was that was being considered. He leaves some very big shoes to fill in this role. Nancy Williams, who is here this evening, was just confirmed by City Council to serve as Ray Pace's replacement. I happen to think that if there's anyone that could come close to filling your shoes, Ray Pace, it would be Nancy Williams, and we're very grateful for her service and excited for her first meeting, which happens to be tonight. But Ray, tonight we're here to honor you and your service. And so if you don't mind, Mr. Pace, if you'll meet me at the podium, and I'm going to ask also former Mayor Dean Dickey to come to the podium with me. We have a very special and first of its kind joint proclamation from myself and also former Mayor Dean Dickey. Mayor Dickey, I'll have to say I'm a little nervous because I know you've done quite a few of these proclamations as well. So I hope that it meets muster for what you would have said. But I know that you'll support these words as well. So if you'll bear with me here. Whereas Ray Pace faithfully served the City of Columbia from December of 2012 until April of 2024. Ray served 12 years as a member of the Planning Commission, and Ray served 8 years as a member of the Historic Zoning Commission, also a very important board for the City of Columbia. Ray was a part of and witnessed the growth of our city during his tenure on the Planning Commission, where our population increased by over 11,000 people during his years of service. Ray's service was given with such devotion that he earned the respect, admiration, and friendship of the citizens of our community through his professional leadership and dedication. Ray was the catalyst for the evolution of numerous developments, often visiting the sites and walking the land on his own time to get a feel for the project before voting on the project. Ray's service as a member of the Planning Commission and Historic Zoning will continue to have a revitalizing and positive impact on our community far beyond his terms of office. Ray has been wholeheartedly supported by his wife, Gail, who's here tonight, his daughter, Key, who's here tonight, and his son-in-law, Derek, who's also here tonight, throughout his years of service. Now, therefore, we, I stress the we, Chaz Mulder, Mayor of the City of Columbia, and Dean Dickey, former Mayor of the City of Columbia, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, as Ray Pace Day in Columbia, Tennessee, in recognition of his many contributions to our city and its citizens. Congratulations, Ray Pace.
Big smiles.
One of the things I love, please be seated, that I love about Ray Pace is when I talked about doing this, I said, Ray, do you want to come to a city council meeting? You know, sometimes there'll be more people, maybe even more watching, although depending on what the topic of the meeting is, sometimes this meeting has more people watching. But Ray said emphatically, without hesitation, no, I want to come to the Planning Commission meeting. And he said he wanted to come to the Planning Commission meeting because he wanted to be surrounded by the dedicated staff at the City of Columbia and the Development Services Department who really pour out their lives and their service to the City of Columbia. And I think, from a staff perspective, that's a testament to the respect that y'all have in Ray Pace's eyes, and please know also in my eyes and all of our eyes as well. So with that said, we'd also like to, if it's all right, Mr. Pace, take a group picture with all of Planning Commission and also Development Services staff so that Ray Pace can have this memory of his service for many years to come. So if you would please join me for one final photo, and then Ray, we're going to have you say a word or two.
Okay.
All right?
Sure. Standing ovation, I never got No, we do it.
Dean Dickey, Ray Pace, congratulations.
He looks small.
We good?
Don't let me block.
They know what they're doing.
Little Legos all falling.
Thank you very much. Ray, would you like to say anything?
Well, I enjoyed it. I don't believe anybody will ever serve on this that will have enjoyed it more than I have. And my partner Gail was always with me. And we'd debate and talk and, Big Bear Bluff. Well, they got to build a bridge in here. There's going to be 10 years. We discussed things like that. But we surely did enjoy it. Talk about Big Bluff. The city takes the trimmings that they go around and pick up. And they go down Iron Bridge Road and turn in and chip that. Well, on the other side of the boat ramp. And then the county had a park on out there. And I thought, well, there's a lot of traffic. I'm going to walk down this hill and just see what's going on. So I walked down there and looked at the chipper, went on down the Big Bluff, looked at that. That hill is about this steep. I said, if a car comes by, I'm going to lay down the highway. I never saw a car when I had to walk the whole way. But I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it. I appreciate the Mayor Dickey having faith in me to put me on there, and you for letting me stay on there. I appreciate it.
Well, you're right. Mayor Dickey was the first one to appoint you to the Planning Commission and Historic Zoning. And Mayor Dickey, we're honored to have you here tonight to say thank you as well, if you'd like to say anything.
Thank you very much. Would almost have to say a word or two about Ray. What he didn't tell you was he was on the park committee, right?
Yeah.
He
We
said,
built really far.
get me off of this. I said, well, we may have an opening on the planning. He said, I'll take it. And he did. He did a good job. He knew more about it than Paul. Where's Paul? Right, Paul? Little story. Ray asked me one day, he said, what do we need to do? And I said, well, we got a problem with litter. I said, I don't know where that comes from the planning commission, but you might get some exposure. I'm sure if he brought it up, I don't think it helped a lot, but it's still
Well,
not that.
Thank you for pointing out, Mayor. We still do have a litter problem. And I think I found the chairman of the task force for the litter issue in the city of Columbia now that you have some time on your hands.
Right. It was an industry that came to Columbia, looked around, stayed a day or two, wanted to come to Columbia. With second thought, they thought they'd go to Giles County and look it over. They went down there, didn't see any litter at all. They went to Giles. So it is important.
It is. It
I
is.
believe I've heard that before.
That may be an old wise tale. Anyway, thank you, Ray Pace, for your service. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Pace. Mayor Dickey. Ms. Williams, thank you for being here tonight as well. I'd like to welcome her as well. Let's go ahead and start the meeting. Rules of conduct of the meeting typically are, if there's an item on the agenda that you're here in the public to want to speak up about, there was a sign-up sheet. When we get to that item, if there's anybody signed up, I'll call you forward. You have an opportunity to state your name, address, and we give 3 minutes to somebody to hear their comments about it. So with that being said, we'll start with the acknowledgement of new and former, well, I already did that, the new former planning commission member, Ms. Williams. Thank you. Acknowledgement of official communications of the City Council and Annexation and Zoning.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So you did have 3 items in front of council meeting at last month's meeting. 2 of those were second consideration, which being the final consideration. Those 2 are one being the request from Morning Sign Lane to be rezoned from 3L to CD3, which was approved and is now in effect, as well as the comprehensive plan the Connect Columbia plan references to our current zoning ordinance 4400 in regards to also definitions and the rezoning processes. Within Article 8, that was on second consideration and is also now in effect. You did have one first consideration. That was the request for West 12th and Haley Street to be rezoned from CD3 to CD4, which was also approved on first consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Keltner. Any questions, Mr. Keltner? Seeing none. Next item is going to be the approval of minutes. In your packets, the minutes from last month's meeting. Everyone should have an opportunity to review those. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Mulder. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Dr. Marty,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goat.
Aye. Minutes are passed. Next item, item 6, is going to be a review of bonds and letters of credit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All letters of credit are in order or in the process of being updated.
Thank you. And that seems to be a very common thing, so thank you for keeping those in order and at all times. We appreciate that.
Welcome.
Looks like there's no consent items tonight.
No, sir.
Okay, so we'll go straight into our discussion items. Our first item for discussion tonight is a request from West Engineers and Surveyors for revision of architectural standards for McClure Farms, a previously approved planned unit development master plan located at tax map 51, parcel 6. The prior approval is vested under ordinance 3638, the previous zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, before you tonight is going to be a PUD revision request from McClure Farms. The applicant requests to revise final plan unit development to change 9 single-family home architectural elevations from the previously approved PUD. The development contains 431 homes on a 95.29 acre site. That does include 115 detached single-family homes, and the elevations are pertaining to the single-family homes, not the townhomes, and that's what is being presented to you tonight in the staff report. So, of course, McClure Farms located off a highly traveled area that's pretty visible to the public. The architectural elevations that are being requested tonight are going to be pertaining to the single-family homes, and they are in relation to the changes in the exterior cladding. 2021 approved version of this PUD. The majority of the exterior walls of the structure were cladded in brick. You did have some appears to be hardy plank. The 2024 proposed, as you see in the slide presentation there, the hardy plank is used substantially on the exterior cladding. And in some elevations, you'll see where stone veneer is proposed as well. Little or no brick is present in the proposed elevations. And as the Planning Commission has full authority to review architectural modifications to the PUD, and that's why it's been brought before you tonight for this request. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, and applicants present as well.
I have a quick question you may be able to answer. Just on
Yes,
the previous ones, do you know off the top of your head if they were brick on all 4 sides, or were they brick just the front of those?
From my knowledge, Mr. Chairman, they were brick, all exterior.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have a couple people that signed up as well. I believe we have Andy Davidson, which are you the applicant? Okay, and we also have a Brandon Rickman, also applicant. Okay, all right. Well, either one of you guys or Alan O'Leary. Anyone want to start?
Alan O'Leary with WS Engineers and Surveyors. I looked at the approved plans for the previously approved plans right before I came, and it was just the fronts that was brick, and the sides and the back was fiber cement board. So, and then Brandon with Brightland Homes, he's here. He can talk about the revision, why the revision, and
Yeah,
go
yeah.
from there.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some input from you on that.
And thank you all so much for your time this evening. Our new proposed homes were definitely not meant to devalue the community by any stretch of the imagination. We had bought this piece of property with an already approved PUD under a different builder's exterior elevations. And so we were basically just attempting to come in with something with what we thought would be very good for the street there at Highway 31, and using the James Hardie product. I have found that it gives us a little bit more opportunity for diversification, and then amongst a warranty complexity that James Hardie also provides. We do the Color Plus, which comes with a 14-year warranty on all the exterior elevation colors. So we also have it comes with protection from hail. As we know, we've got substantial storms coming in this evening. So that was really our main drive on that, just for warranty purposes, trying to recaulk mortar joints or anything. It's an easier product to, if you've ever seen a bad brick job or tried to come back in and touch up any kind of mortar grout joints, it's impossible to match the color after a certain amount of time. So it was just our attempt to come in with our own product, and eliminate the existing product that we don't own. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have on that.
May I ask Mr. McCarthy to maybe pull up the comparisons, the side by side? And notice, it looks like, I mean, I guess obviously this is your footprint and everything. This is kind of your product.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I notice a lot of them on the previous ones had fairly stately front porches, and these have more of a stoop or whatever. Do you have any products that have the front porch?
Some of them we have incorporated in here. We'll have some front porch elevation options. There should be a total of 9 floor plans
with some nice columns and stuff like that.
Yes, sir. So it's definitely a mixed bag, just to basically provide square footages and price points for everybody that would want to partake in the community.
The first
I think
one
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You finish.
I think the single family homes were approximately 25% of the total community is what we were seeking for this evening.
Yeah, that picture there, it looks like it does show the previous ones. Those two had the columns and front porches, and
on the Old South product, yes, sir.
Have those as well. At least those 3 have those. The first one that I'm looking at Brightmoor here has got I don't know what you call that, but it's got brick or stone for at least call it 3 foot high around.
And we do that standard. That's part of what we do. So all of the foundations to grade will always be either a stone or a brick.
Okay, but this one.
And so based off topography is how much you will actually see of that. So that could be anywhere from 24 inches to 48 inches.
Okay, but that's to grade to floor level?
That's correct.
Okay, the one I'm looking at looks like it's probably up higher.
Under the windows, yes, we have some plans that incorporate a little bit more brick on there.
Do you have a percentage of what you would plan on doing that might have like at least?
I didn't have the calculations on that, or did we provide those? I don't think we were asked to provide those, but it's the general massing of the homes themselves are going to typically be the fiber cement board of James Hardie Color Plus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this one is too. It just has that, a little bit more stately looking with the brick and stuff. It goes up to, at least 3 feet high. I call it at least doorknob high. It looks like.
Right.
I think that may be some of the confusion. So there's the majority of the models that are showing here have the fiber cement going all the way to the ground. There is no water table brick or stone or anything like that going across the bottom.
Just for our marketing purposes, it may do that, but and I would be willing to put something like that in writing to make sure that it appeases everybody. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, and then the other part is so I guess with the original one, while the vast majority of those had that porch feel to it, that massing to it, this one it seems like while you're grouping them, so take the Belmont for example, it's got the big picture has the porch, but then the 2 smaller ones below it do not have a porch. So each of the 9 models have multiple models that do not have a porch option. Whereas as in the original, we were looking at the majority of the homes in there were going to end up being a porch front. This one, you have the option to do the entire thing with no porches.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
different elevations as you progressively would go through the alphabet, you'll have more opportunities for diversification on there. And that just provides, basically provides a different price point for each individual home.
So there's not a preset number right
It
now?
would be per elevation, yes, sir.
And we're talking 435 homes, is that what?
431, I believe.
431?
115 singles, though.
So this is pertaining
Total
on,
with the townhomes, 3 something.
We're not seeking any changes on any towns.
okay. We're just looking at the 115.
Yes, sir.
singles. But we don't know the percentage breakdown, where the other ones were majority front porched and columns and stuff like that, and this one we're going to more stoops, but we don't know the percentage of what you're wanting to do.
Correct.
That. So that's something that we could ask for, maybe a percentage of those, or at least more detail of that.
You certainly could.
Yeah.
Certainly could. It like to think of a little bit from just an administrative standpoint of tracking that becomes somebody's got to come up with a key pattern book of where all that's going to happen to show those percentages. It does become
And are we
quite
talking
complex.
percentage of brick and stone, or are we talking percentage of the?
Variation of fronts,
Yeah, the variations.
stoop versus your porch.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a question, and maybe this is for Mr. Keltner, and I apologize, but I need to sort of dumb this down a little bit if I can, so I can make sure I understand exactly what's being requested here. First of all, this is a PUD that's been previously approved back in 2021.
Right.
That includes 431 homes, which includes 116 detached and 315 townhomes.
Right.
And that is not changing, or that is not anything that is being requested to change as a result of this request, correct?
Is that correct?
Correct.
You're going to
We're not seeking to add any additional.
And in addition to that, the elevations relative to the townhomes that have been previously approved under the PUD are not under consideration for change with this request, correct?
That is correct. Nor will there be any future request to change that.
Okay. Yet there are 115 homes under a previously approved plan that is subjected to a PUD that has some pretty strict requirements in terms of elevations and what we can require them to adhere to. They're seeking to deviate from that and insert these newer elevations, which may be more consistent with their product versus the product that was originally approved.
That's correct.
And I don't know. I wonder why we would have to do that. It seems like we've talked a lot about, PUDs and giving them the ability to sort of ensure a product. And is there basically it's just a request because it's their product and they want to have their product, which has different elevations, and those elevations may be less brick overall on what will be a very, frontage road for.
Yes, sir. It's a part of the ordinance. So the original approval had what you saw earlier here with those architectural elevations, and that's what is with the ordinance. So in order for Brightland to put their product in there or have any modification of that, that's why it's here today. So the PUD is locking in those prior elevations.
And their product, which includes less brick facade, in fact, no brick on these elevations, and then also the porches under the current request there could be zero. And under the original current PUD that they're under, they're required to have that. Is that right?
Right. Yes, sir.
So I just think I like where you were going with the percentages. I know it could be an issue for staff. Maybe there's an opportunity to sort of clean it up for the next time. But I don't know how, it just doesn't, it doesn't seem right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think that was kind of, without knowing exactly, one could argue one's looks as equally as comparable as the other one. Obviously the brick.
Oh, totally agree.
I agree that I think the brick going up at least 3 feet makes a difference, and we've got an architect on our board here, so he may be able to argue even more than I can, But I think that at least getting some more detail as to like just as a blanket, like hey, we want to put this in here, but we might put all 115 of them as the cheapest of the 3 that I'm looking at, and I don't know which one. I don't want to pick one. You know what I'm saying? But that has no porch, no brick, other than maybe the grade. But. No eyebrows over the windows, nothing like that. So it's asking a lot for consideration. So, Mr. Sloan, don't know if I want to put you on the spot, but do you have, from your profession, anything to consider on that?
Thank you. I was waiting patiently. I think I just need, similar to what Mayor Moeller was asking, I kind of need the lens to look at this through. So the prior PUD, was that in compliance with our prior zoning ordinance?
Yes, sir, it was. Yes. So your prior ordinance, which would have been 3638, it definitely pushes the direction into a brick. But the board has the right to go outside that.
Yeah. And then it was 3 sides minimum. The material had to be consistent on all 3 sides. Base metal cap, no plane for 35 feet unbroken. And that was the commercial standards, right?
That's commercial standards. Residential standards did not in 3638 have quite that level of detail.
Was there anything about the slab on grade?
Yes.
Okay. It's more difficult to view it through an older lens.
Right.
And so from a unbiased, unobjective kind of standpoint, I would say that it is difficult, if not impossible, to approve elevations and drawings that aren't accurate. Like to say that you've got some elevations that show hardy down to finished floor elevation, and then you're saying, hey, verbally, we're okay with adding brick or stone for 3 feet for the crawl space. But it's difficult from a historical standpoint. If somebody was to go back and review the minutes and the agenda items, it's difficult to do that. We've been part we've been part of a architectural review board commercially for a number of years that, we tried to do that, and it's impossible to enforce it. Later on, the staff doesn't have something to go back on and say, hey, there's supposed to be a brick roll lock here, or brick on all 4 sides, or
makes sense.
I
can respect that.
So I think whatever decision is made here, I would say that at the minimum, you need to come back with some revised drawings to show exactly what is being approved. I do think that brick adds a level of detail and character at the base that is appropriate for the style of homes that's kind of in that area and what we're looking to achieve. And I would also say that brick that's continuous around the perimeter of the building does as well.
And we fully intend to do that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that is, and we can put that on the renderings.
That would be my 2 cents. I think the massing of the buildings, it seems like, is similar. Adding porches adds some character. Not having a flat facade adds some character to where there's 2 different roof lines that kind of adjoin. So I think there's ways to achieve that, but I just don't fully think that the revisions that I'm looking at are kind of in line with where we want to move things forward.
So continue to clean them up a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would come, in my opinion, I don't know, would a deferral maybe to allow time to kind of work on this and clean up to get back with staff, or, to kind of get, some percentages, some additions of what we're talking about here today, take what's been considered.
We'd be happy to do that.
That's up to the commission. I do have some suggestions.
I would love to hear them, yes.
And I should have mentioned this before when this was at TRC, but it is my preference for PUDs that these design standards be presented in a tabular format like we have in our current zoning ordinance. And that way you could establish a standard instead of us looking at a picture of an elevation and, say there's some buyer option they have in their package that it might change or vary, and we have to bring it back to you for approval. You could establish a set of standards and guidelines that this is the architectural standard for this development, and then we can review it according to that. So if you want a certain percentage of brick or 36-inch high water table or whatever that standard is, we can apply that, and it could vary a little bit from one to another and not have to exactly match the elevations in that. The illustrative material could be provided, but the standard would be formatted like a zoning ordinance.
I think that's fair.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that's very fair.
So y'all heard some of the inputs and concerns we have here tonight,
Yes.
just the character. I think the other, as we talked about, the porches, the columns, the brick. So we can all agree that's probably a pretty stately looking product, and so just taking that in concession with the brick you're looking at here, the columns, some of them you do have columns and porches, so maybe develop something that might drill down exactly what you guys are wanting to do in a format that Mr. McCarthy talked about would be helpful for us to reconsider. So,
Yeah, I think from a deferral, we typically do not recommend deferrals, but in this case, there's no site design associated with it. It's just architectural elevations. No other boards really get involved in this other than this body, so I don't see why a deferral allow them to add new items to this in a format that you're liking. Would be okay.
We'd love the opportunity to clean
Okay.
it up for you.
okay, then based upon that, taking into consideration what we've talked about here tonight, I'm gonna make a motion to defer.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Dr. Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mayor Moulder,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goode.
Aye. Items deferred. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next item tonight, item 2, is going to be a request from Mike Harris for rezoning from CD4C, General Urban Corridor Character District, and CD3, Neighborhood Character District, to a PUD MU mixed-use plan unit development and preliminary master plan approval at 806 and 812 Nashville Highway, respectively.
Yes, sir. So this is a request to establish a planned unit development for the property that is current water treatment facility and has been for nearly 70 years, as well as the adjacent property, which is the former location of the American Legion facility. The properties are currently zoned CD 4C and CD 3 respectively. So 4C is our commercial corridor district. 3 is a residential neighborhood district. Neither of them, they both allow a utility facility, but the standards are not intended, that's set up for these sort of unique singular buildings. They're set up for commercial, retail in one instance and for single-family detached homes in the other. CPWS has met with Development Services staff a number of times to talk about their plans for this expansion, and they determined through that process that a PUD would be the best option for them to craft for you all to recommend a specific set of standards that would suit the needs of the utility facility. And as you recall from an item on your agenda last month, the ordinance sets criteria for you to find that it's appropriate to use the planned unit development. And in general, the ordinance really discourages the use of PUDs. It really directs you to use the default standards in the character districts and the special districts. But where the use is unique or special, or the site is unique and special in some way, a PUD would be appropriate to craft a specific set of standards to accommodate that. And this, of course, it's a singular use. There's one facility like this in our jurisdiction. It's one of a kind. It's fixed in this location, and the site, for that same reason, is unique because that's where these assets are already. It's where the facility is that they want to expand, and it long predates the current zoning. You can see here the aerial of the two properties, so the existing facility as well as the American Legion facility. And you can also note along the sides that there is single-family homes that immediately abut. So here where the pointer is along Locust, these homes back up to the American Legion facility. And then on the south side, there's single-family detached homes that abut the utility facility and the American Legion site. And then this is a rendering of how the expanded facility would look. And you can notice that there are some now utility facilities a little bit closer to the American Legion parking lot is gone, and there are facilities associated with water treatment plant relatively close to those homes on Locust. Also note, so on the frontage along Nashville Highway, the applicant proposes to use a aluminum wrought iron style fence with brick columns. It's depicted here. And then around the rest of the property, sort of where the American Legion is now, and then along the residential properties, that use a black coated chain link fence with barbed wire, which is of course disallowed in all the character districts and disallowed in the PUD MU default standards. So that's a specific request that they're asking for to modify those standards. Also, they are requesting some reduction of the required buffer between a PUD MU and a CD3 zoned property. Right now, the ordinance prescribes a 50-foot buffer, and they're proposing a 25-foot buffer. The ordinance prescribes an opacity of 90%. The opacity, I don't believe, was noted in the plans. They do say they'll use evergreen material, but their own, the renderings do show that the buildings would be visible from these homes on Locust. Also, there are trees planted along the frontage on Nashville Highway. Staff has asked the applicant to consider heavier vegetation there. There is some conflicts with utilities and cost involved. But this is, this facility has been here nearly 70 years. This is probably your one opportunity for many decades to improve that facade, or that frontage rather, where you're sort of coming into downtown Columbia. And the applicant, so Mr. Harris did let me know the applicant is considering the addition of more trees, more drought-resistant trees there. So it could be, CPWS could be an example to water conservation, but provide us with some improved softening of that frontage. And then Austin will be coming up in just a moment to talk to you about the modification to the architectural standards that were recommended by the design review team. They are asking for a number of modifications to the site and building site standards and the PUD-MU defaults. It would permit taller accessory structures, so there will be 30-foot structures on this site, and also sort of customized ability to in front on driveways and internally to the site rather than on a thoroughfare internal drive. There's also there's reductions in setbacks and significant modifications to the architectural standards in the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. And it was noted that this site plan did already receive a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals for an accessory structure in the first layer. And I think that variance does speak volumes to what a challenge this may be to apply this site under the current base zoning standards. Therefore, the PUD really is the most appropriate option. We would keep seeing variances more than likely if they were to move forward under the base zoning. On the next slide, you can see here that the Architectural Design Review Team, they did approve all design elevations at their March 2024 meeting. And I do applaud CPWS for proposing elevations that are all brick on their maintenance buildings. You can see here that they use a combination of brick with a different brick inset, and then they are utilizing spandrel glass. Again, the zoning code does have very prescriptive requirements with PUDs. For example, buildings are required to in-front right-of-way sections. As this is an existing single-site use, of course, there's going to be no right-of-ways being proposed within the site. I know, Mr. McCarthy, you did highlight the fence. They are proposing a very decorative fence with brick pilasters along the front elevation along Nashville Highway, with a black coated fence along the entire perimeter of the site. Nevertheless, the Architectural Design Review Team did give a favorable recommendation to the Planning Commission for this proposal. Thank you.
Was that on the elevations including the fence?
So please keep in mind the fence was not part of their proposal. It was just the elevations in the building. So the orientation and those things were not. However, the fence was discussed because that was a key thought, but it was noted that it would go before the Planning Commission for any final decision regarding fencing.
Thank you. I know we have Mr. Harris here tonight as well.
Good afternoon, Chairman Goetz, members of the Planning Commission, city staff. Again, my name's Mike Harris. I'm with IDG Group. We're the program manager for Columbia Power and Water's long-term water supply program, which this project is a part of. Along with me, I have members of the design team here, as well as members from Columbia Power and Water. Hopefully we can answer any questions you may have. I just want to give a little bit of background on how we got to this point. Many of you obviously know that water's been a big topic here in City of Columbia over the last several years. And Columbia Power and Water has really been proactive in developing a long-term water supply program. And their original plan was to build a new water treatment plant that we called the West Water Treatment Plant. We've experienced a lot of delays in environmental permitting and cost escalation. As all of you know, the cost of construction has gone up considerably. Fortunately, we were lucky enough, or Columbia Power and Water was lucky enough to be able to purchase the American Legion property in 2021. And that opened the door for expansion of this plant. As the staff's already noted, there are a number of exceptions we're asking for. It's a very unique site, very unique facility that really wouldn't fit in any of the zones. And we worked with staff, and I appreciate their cooperation in helping us arrive at this plan. Not going to spend a lot of time talking about the details of it. I want to open it up for questions and be happy to answer those, and we're looking for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I may just start then, because I noticed speaking to the variance request, the setback request going from 25 or 50 to 25. The one building that looked like it was really kind of for the need of that was, and I don't have the drawing up on the screen there, but it was, I'd call it the south corner. It looks like on what I'm looking at, it's building E and F, but it's, do you know like what kind of decibel sound? I mean, my thought on that building, is that like a?
It's not, there's not a lot of noise.
Okay.
Generated in that building, no.
Okay. It's more of just a other kind of use, I guess.
Yeah,
It
there's
doesn't have
no,
these big loud pumps running and stuff like
right.
that. Yeah, got it. And it's pertaining to the fence. I mean, I know that was the other discussion that I guess we'll have to discuss here tonight. I looked at a couple of different illustrations. One showed I guess the plan is still today to do the aluminum fence across the front with the columns, and then as presented there with black chain link in the.
Yes, it was kind of, we wanted to do something to improve the look of the facility from the Nashville Highway, since that's the primary public view. And that's why we're adding the brick columns and so forth. The rest of the facility already has a lot of chain link fence. And so we propose to use that same type of fence around the rest of the facility.
And is that a requirement? You know, he mentioned that the barbed wire or whatever you want to call it. Is that a regulatory requirement or something?
Well, after 9/11, EPA issued a mandate that all public utilities do a risk assessment of their facilities, which Columbia Power and Water did. The treatment plant was identified as the second highest risk facility in the system. Obviously, the water intake itself is the number one, but the treatment plant is the second one. So we want to maintain that level of security for that purpose. Mm-hmm. That's the main reason for the chain link and the barbed wire.
And I applaud Columbia Power for wanting to kind of set a standard for using like a low watering or low, I don't know what you want to use it, drought type landscaping, I guess. Is that achievable with also creating an opacity or at least to hide some things too?
Well, we're trying to use drought tolerant plants and so forth. Yes, we think so. Columbia Power and Water is going to be, you're going to see more water conservation measures come forward as not related to this facility, but just to general customers to try to, incentivize people to use less water going forward. Obviously, water demand and water usage across the country is becoming a big priority.
Now, I know what we're considering here is the PUD as the whole project, but this project that we're talking about, you mentioned earlier there was a whole plan for the west facility and stuff, but this project right here will get us to the capacity needed to serve the new permit we're applying for?
Yes, sir. In terms of numbers, the current plan has a capacity of about 17.5 million gallons per day. We can run peaks, and Tom is here who runs the plant. He knows a lot more about it than I do. The expansion will expand that capacity by about 12 million gallons. It'll take us to about 29.5 million gallons per day. And so a significant expansion, and it's not just about capacity. There's some improved operational characteristics of the new buildings and equipment, and we want to make that system as robust. Our number one goal, or Columbia Power and Water's number one goal, is to preserve the capacity for existing customers and make sure that system is available and running at all times.
Coleman.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work on this. My first question just had to do with the chain link fence in the back that abuts residential properties. What other options kind of are available or were explored besides barbed wire as far as ensuring it's secure?
There are some other types of fencing. To be honest, I'm not that familiar with them. There's some that have spikes on the top, and to be honest, I'm not sure. They're more expensive. And we're trying to strike a balance. I mean, ultimately, we want to be sensitive to the aesthetics of the facility, but ultimately, the water customers bear the cost of what we do. So we're trying to strike a balance between economics and aesthetics.
Certainly, and I don't envy what you have to. Because obviously my thoughts is about the constituents. I also happen to live in Riverside. A lot of children in the area, and just kind of interested in were any other options considered as far as obviously security is very important. I was interested to hear that it is number 2, in fact, on the list. However, I guess I'd just like to see, like, I don't know personally what all options are available as far as to secure public facilities, but something besides barbed wire, directly abutting backyards, residential backyards, I would like to know if there's other options, personally.
To be honest, I'm not sure.
And that's okay. It might be something that we can come back to. My other question was, and I might have misheard, but reducing the buffer on the side of abutting homes, is that correct?
Yes.
What was the reason for that?
Well, it's a very tight site as it is, and we have no idea what the future holds. So we're trying to preserve as much property as we can and utilize the site as efficiently as we can. And we know that if we'd rather establish the project as it is today now, as opposed to providing a buffer and then having to tear it out later, we know that would be much more difficult. So we want to try to preserve some space for future expansion should that ever be necessary. And if we provide the full buffer, we just won't have that property to do that.
Would the buffer that currently exists there now be getting reduced, or it just wouldn't be?
I don't think there's actually a buffer there.
Is there none right now?
I don't think. But I don't believe there's a buffer on the property. I'm not sure. Kevin.
And so there's nothing intentional back there now, buffering. It's just whatever maybe has grown over time.
Fence line growth, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're proposing to leave a lot of that vegetation that's there and expand it with the 25 feet, but it is a reduction from what the zoning requires.
Those would be the only 2 concerns I have. Obviously there's money that comes out from paying more for it to taxpayers, or, potential downgrades, not downgrades, but less appealing resale value for the properties that are directly abutting it. And so those are just the things I had in mind, but just things I guess that I'd throw. This wouldn't keep me from approving it personally, but I think that those are things I'd like to see, specifically the barbed wire thing, just because of the children in the area and things like that. People are flying kites. Obviously security, very important. It's a hard balance to strike, but just something to think about.
Understand.
And Mr. Keltner, given that this is a rezoning request, this will have to go in front of City Council for 2 considerations,
That is
correct?
correct, yes, sir.
Perhaps between now and when it comes to City Council next month, and on a second consideration the following month, there's an opportunity to have some continuing conversations about what other options may exist. Because I agree, obviously we're sort of relegated to that location as a result of a decision from 70 years ago. However, it would be nice to sort of ensure the integrity of the residential area as much as possible. And I appreciate the efforts that have already been made, the upgraded fencing, the vegetation, and also I'd point out the public meetings. I was unaware that y'all had done those or undertaken those kind of efforts, and I appreciate that. I think that's a testament to your commitment to making sure the community was both engaged and aware of what's going on. So thank you for that. But I would like to encourage maybe some ongoing conversation on some of the more aesthetic things, including the barbed wire.
Understand.
And on that, I would like to say, just to add that already on the front end, just what's being proposed on the front, I mean, that alone is a huge improvement just from being, growing up here my whole life and seeing that institutional wiring. There's like, you know, not too long ago, I had never even been in that facility because I didn't really think you could, you know, and you probably can't, you know, but, you know, so I think that's a good thing. Dr. Martin.
Yeah, I just want to say, hey, hello, from 2 years of being on CPW as an appointment by the illustrious Mayor Terrence Mulder. I'm excited that we were able to purchase the American Legion property to be able to do this expansion. You so eloquently shared some of the delays that we've had with trying to get those permits, and it was driving me crazy. So I want to say that this is going to be a major project for the city of Columbia, and definitely on all of our phones, we see so much about water and all the things that are being looked at as far as, you know, 100 years down the lane, and we've got to do some due diligence with that. I too am definitely concerned about the fence. That is just crazy for me to have that top on it like it is, and for whatever reason, as we were young a long time ago, we did some things in climbing fences, and so I love the renovations, and the city attorney and I were sitting here having an illegal conversation, but can you, Kevin, pull up the drawing and have them show us the two entry points, or the entry point that's coming in off of Nashville Highway to get into the current and the addition part, so we can definitely see that. Yeah, that's the right picture. And but that fence, we got to figure out something else with that. I know taxpayers, and I'm one of them, that's paying the city and the county taxes, so I'm always horrified about taxes. But we definitely want aesthetics and safety to be top of the line, and I know the board out there and the staff out there definitely have done due diligence in working that plan to come before us at this time. But like the mayor's saying, they got a couple of times to look at it as far as city council. But can you show us where the entry is, Kevin?
2 points.
Okay, that entry.
Well, that's a right in, right out only.
Okay, but where's the other?
The one further south of that, Kevin, will be the main entrance.
And then the drive around is inside that area that's going to take you
The
around?
circulation is within internal to the site.
Okay.
But their main entrance into it will be that area. That's an existing median opening. They'll be doing a left-hand turn
Right.
Improvement to go into it to get the traffic out of Nashville Highway as well. Were they doing any acceleration coming out of there, or just leaving it like? Okay. That would be their 2 points.
That fence won't be continuous there. It'll be like a gate there.
Yes, sir. It's a gate that shows right there. And it's inset enough to where the fire department has enough distance to pull up for the gate to open up to get out of traffic as well.
Those are my only concerns.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. And while you've got that illustration up there, Kevin, this might be a good opportunity for me to ask the question. So talking about the setbacks and the, that it looks like at least some of the stations that are even already pre-existing do they already kind of, what am I trying to say? Would they violate a 50-foot setback already? I'm looking specifically at right there where your pointer is now. So, you know, it looks like the variance is needed possibly for even what's already existing. Is that an accurate? Okay. Yeah.
Like the wells right there.
Mhm. Yeah. So based upon that, I mean, I may ask staff this question, you know, and as the mayor pointed out, it has two more considerations. So do we just ask that CPWS continue to work with staff on how to clean up the fence concerns, you know, at a cost effective, but also aesthetically effective manner, to not only, as I said already, I love the front piece, you know, but, you know, it also affects the residential surroundings as well. So that'd be something that we could just ask that kind of get cleaned up. And I mean, I don't necessarily have to ask that it comes back to this board, because that would, you know, but it's something that I guess I'll defer to staff on how to handle that.
Yes, sir. There again, we would typically not recommend going that path to what you're voting on is in front of you is what you're presenting to city council as well. But this is just a fence. So if you wanted to have in your motion to make a recommendation, and then in that recommendation, point out the fence was something that needs to be continued to
Yeah.
look at as it presents to city council.
So could my motion be something along the lines of making a motion to approve, subject to applicant maybe coming up with some variations of fence options for city council to consider?
Sure, yes.
Okay. That would then be my motion.
I would second that motion.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Coleman. Not subject to.
With the recommendation.
Requesting that, thank you, Mr. Tischer. I'll make that motion, requesting the applicant to work with, having some variations to provide to city council at the next level.
Do I need a second again? And then I'll second that. Because that would be among council as well. That would be my question. Again, at that point, it's just at least what other options are there cost wise? Can we consider those? Because I think paying more or something, if we can avoid the barbed wire, would be worth council discussing and deciding on. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams, Mr. Goode.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item, item 3. I'm going to recuse myself on this and hand the gavel over to Vice Chair Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 3, we request from Joshua McBride to rezone approximately 17.5 acres from CD2 Rural Character District to CV Civic District at 1201 Maple Ash Avenue. And I will be asking for the staff report from Mr. Kevin McCarthy.
Yes, sir. So this is somewhat similar to the previous request in that it is a unique land use on a unique piece of property. It's a request from the Agathos School to rezone their property from CD2, which is a rural character district intended for sort of semi-agricultural uses and large lot, single-family detached residential. And they're requesting to rezone to Civic, the Civic District. And you'll see, if you look at the zoning map across the city, a lot of private school campuses, public school campuses, the hospital, government facilities, those type of institutional properties are zoned civic, and the civic district is intended to accommodate those kinds of uses, which are campus settings, not necessarily lots and building sites arranged in blocks like we typically see throughout the city and the character district. As they have built out their campus, you can see the concept here, one of their concepts here. I know that they're modifying it and working on, constantly working on improvements to their vision for the property. But they have internally oriented buildings that are sort of arranged towards into the site rather than facing streets and arranged in the way that we would review it under the CD2 or CD3 or 4 standards. They've, like Austin mentioned on the previous property, this property has had to obtain a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to move forward with some of their current projects. And they have projects under administrative review right now that it's very difficult for us to sort of work with them and make it fit. But the civic zone would accommodate their needs and allow them to establish building sites that don't have to confront a street section that have essentially no minimum setbacks. There is one maximum setback, but they're establishing where the building site line is, and they can orient the buildings towards like a park-like environment, pedestrian walkways like you would see on any campus setting. And you can see here's an example from something Austin's working with them on, where they have their frontage here along a pathway. They could also have it here rather than putting it on constructing a thoroughfare or internal drive at great expense in order to face a building towards it. They can arrange the buildings internally towards one another because it's a campus. And again, it's similar to what you would see in other uses and other properties across the city. The future land use here is city center urban village for most of the property. The portion of the property that's on Lytle Creek is your hillsides and natural spaces. Both of those are implemented by the Civic District. The standards for your review are 8519, and those are restated on page 7 of your staff report. And the Planning Commission is a recommending body to the City Council's decision-making authority.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Let's see. I only have one individual signed up for public comment. That appears to be the applicant, Mr. Joshua McBride. Are you here? Excellent. Would you like to go ahead and speak, or are you just here for questions?
Just here for questions.
Great. Thank you for being here. All right, then I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion.
I'll just.
Go ahead.
Well, did you have a question?
I was going to ask Mr. McCarthy something, but you go ahead.
I'll go after you.
All right. Well, I was going to ask Mr. McCarthy. This seems pretty cut and dry to me, as far as this being the new efforts that we've made to try to clean up our zoning ordinance. This seems like it is the appropriate thing, and it seems like I guess I just want to make sure. Are there any hiccups right now with staff where the applicant and staff are not seeing eye to eye that we need to weigh in on?
Well, there have been challenges with site plan reviews here because we're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. CD2 is meant to accommodate single-family detached homes, large lots. So there have been challenging conversations, but it's really because that's an opinion, but the CD2 doesn't easily accommodate the land use. The Civic would remove those challenges.
Okay, I apologize. I phrased my question wrong. So yes, in them moving to the Civic District, that would essentially clear up our issues, correct? In your eyes?
The challenges we've experienced so far would be resolved, yes, sir.
Excellent. Okay, that's all again. Thank you. Apologize.
And Mr. Chairman, that was sort of exactly where I was going with that, was my question as well. And so with that said, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to any staff or technical comments.
Now, second. Any discussion? A motion and a second.
I have one quick question.
Sir?
Is there any access differences between, I know CD2, kind of the residential side of things, and going to a Civic? Civic's typically used for like public sort of access, where, a library space or something, and it has more kind of vehicular access around, but has there been any discussion or any questions about like fire department access to the buildings on this site? And that sort of thing, because it's kind of nestled back in there, and it might be outside of the zoning, but I didn't know if that had come up.
Yes, sir. It would be outside of the zoning, but the fire marshal would review any plans, and they would have to conform. Fire code, building code, other requirements of the city would still need to be adhered to, and so you would eliminate the need for buildings to face onto thoroughfares and internal drives. They'd still have to have access, legal access to a public right-of-way, which of course they would already. They have access to Maple Ash. And if there was a situation where the building was too far away for fire apparatus to get to, they would have to address that and conform to that regardless of what the zoning is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. All right, so we had a first and a second. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, take the roll, please. Or the vote.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Motion passes. Now we'll hand it back over to our chair.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Our next item on our agenda is item 4. It's going to be a request from Permit Solutions, Inc. for mixed-use plan unit development, master plan approval for an approximately 1.34 acre portion of the Honey Farm development located at 2248 Nashville Highway.
Thank you, Mr. Goetz. This here will be one of our first quick service fast food restaurants that we will be seeing under the new zoning code. The property is currently zoned PUD. You may recall back in May of 2023, we did a preliminary and final plat for the site, more commonly known as the Store Place final plat. That did include the platting of a rear private access road known as Honeycutter B Way. It is within the City Center and Urban Village future land use, which does adhere to the PUD MU plan. The overall site plan, again, being one of our first fast food restaurant site plans under a PUD MU, It does conform to the code regarding all parking being within the third layer. The drive-through is within the third layer, and also the stacking lane for the drive-throughs within the third layer. It is noted that the PUD MU does have a maximum building site of 180 feet, and this does include a proposed 180-foot building site. With that 180-foot building site, there is a 90% frontage build-out. So simply put, what that means is 90% of the building has to confront that entire building site. The code does allow an allowance for a street screen to account for 20% of that, and the applicant does provide that street screen. But with that and a 20% admin adjustment that is also in the code, it does adhere to that 90% frontage build out. The building is roughly 111 feet of that 180 feet. Moreover, there is a proposed street screen that's going along the Honey Farm elevation that's required per the code. The reason the code does have the street screen is because we want to try to screen parking from any public right-of-way. And it does also have the required street trees fronting Nashville Highway and Honey Farm Way. I would like to note that there is also a minor modification that they are requesting for the landscape islands. For every 10 parking spaces, there is a landscape island equivalent to a 9 by 19 parking space. Those have been slightened somewhat, and also you can note that there are 1, 2, 3 parking islands that do not include the shade tree. However, there are some utilities within those islands, so that inherently does create a conflict. In addition to that, the applicant did work with engineering to ensure that there's no vehicular conflicts within the parking lot. Initially, it did show a two-way access point for both driveways, and per engineering's request, it was noted that it be a one-way access to not only reduce conflicts from the private access road, but also reduce conflicts from the stacking within the drive-through. And I would also like to note there is a retaining wall that is being shown. Staff did reach out to the applicant for more details on that retaining wall and why it is there, but it was noted that this also will come back before Planning Commission if it does receive approval from Council as a final PUD master plan. One thing that is unique to the PUD MU zoning is all buildings are required to be 2 stories. So this is a 2-story McDonald's that is being proposed per the code. It did receive favorable recommendation from the design review team. It does meet all of the material requirements utilizing brick on both the first elevation and the second elevation. One additional thing to note is all principal facades, so the facade fronting Nashville Highway does require what we call a shop front frontage type. And when you do have a shop front frontage type, there is a 70% glazing requirement. The applicant here is proposing 61% glazing, which is still significant in adhering to that, but that is within the area of the 20% admin adjustment. So staff did feel comfortable with administering that. And again, it also did receive a favorable review from the design review team. And again, these are just the drive-through elevations and the side elevations, just noting that the same brick material does run on all 4 sides of the building. And it is 2 stories. Staff did have a question about the second story. I would just like to add to that. It isn't something that is proposed to be utilized for the public. It is, to my knowledge, just going to be storage space for the McDonald's. And then that concludes my report if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brass. So just in summary, I know we saw this before. There was a rezone request to get out of the PUD, and so this is illustrating that an applicant can conform to the PUD requirements within the variances that you're allowed to, the tolerances that you are allowed to approve as staff.
Yes, sir, it does. And I think more specifically, it really speaks testimony to corporate franchise entities responding to local municipality zoning requirements.
This may be a question for.
I think we have a tornado warning.
Is that a warning? We're in a safe place, aren't we?
Yeah, in the basement.
Yeah.
Is this the safe place to be?
It feels just a tornado warning, but I believe we're in a safe place. I mean, I don't want to promise you that. But that being said, this might be a question for Glenn on the. Make sure I'm looking at the right one. So it's going to be one right in or one way in, one way out with the stacking. I think about some other restaurants that we have and stuff. and the drive-through lane and all that, is this a good design?
Yes, it appears to have more adequate stacking and room within the parking lot to allow vehicles to queue before they get onto the roadway, entering and exiting.
Okay.
But I mean, every site has limitations, right? It depends on how many people are.
Right, right. But you guys, you worked with them and this design seems to work well.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, looks like we are. That, Mayor, do we have any recommendations or?
We're in the basement.
I know we are under an active warning until 5:45. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this item is ready for a vote.
I mean,
we are at the conclusion of the agenda, so perhaps we move for a vote and conclude. I know that there is other business and might not be wise to leave while it's under active warning.
Stay here. We can stay here if you need to.
I believe you had people signed up to speak on it.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for pointing that out. So we did have, I'll start with Drew Smith, and that may be, I don't want to, are you with the applicant?
I'm just the property owner.
Okay. So we have Karen Landers.
Yes, I just had some general comments.
Yeah, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and then your concern.
My name is Karen Landers. I live at 784 Baker Road here in Columbia, Tennessee. I've been a resident of Columbia, I guess now, probably 40 years. I wanted to come because I guess what I wanted to say is all of us in this community, we've welcomed in many new families. As we all know, our community has really, really grown. And we've got a lot of good people that are here with us now. But I also am hoping that the city is going to support us in moving forward with some commercial growth, starting with maybe this McDonald's. But I'm certainly in support of commercial growth up and down that Nashville Highway corridor. I just feel like we need it. We need more resources, more grocery stores, more fast food. I just think there's many things that are needed. I would have to think that would benefit the residents. The city would make revenue. I would assume off of that, jobs would be created. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. I'm sure probably the people in the Honey Farms subdivision are probably pretty concerned about commercial going right there at their entrance. I would like to say I've lived on Baker Road most of my adult life, and I have commercial now at the end of my road. I have a car dealership going in. I have a bank on one side, and then I have another commercial property back there. I would like to say it hasn't affected any of us at all. It has not affected the enjoyment, of our community at all. The one thing I could say for Honey Farms is my understanding is they're going to get a red light, which would be very beneficial, I would think, to the safety of their residents back in there. So I think there's a lot of good that can come from this McDonald's going in. And I guess that's kind of all that I wanted to say. I see all the good things about it. I see the good it can do for the community. I think we need it with all the new residents, and I think it will be very beneficial for the Honey Farm people if they can see it that way. But I certainly understand their concerns, but I don't think that they're going to notice any repercussions from that commercial going in right there along a main corridor. So basically, I'm just here in support of Drew, what he's trying to do, and I hope to see some development that we can all enjoy in this community. So I want to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Landers. Appreciate that. Next, we have Tom Du Bois.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Mayor and Councilman Coleman. Good to see you, and good to see our esteemed Vice Mayor that I served under for many years or was appointed in many ways. I appreciate. Good to see you. Tom Du Bois, 2201 Carpenter Bee Drive. I've lived in Honey Farms probably about 2.5 years now. Moved out there in the fall of 2021. I'm not sure what all I have to add other than the fact that, or the comment that I was really glad to hear a lot of comments about aesthetics and safety. That's the concern of the Honey Farms residents. Obviously, we have an opportunity as a city, as a community, to make this the most aesthetically pleasing and beautiful northern gateway to our town, our community. And I'm glad to hear that aesthetics is an important part of y'all's considerations. I know it will be the same with the city council as well. Honey Farms, we did share this with the Honey Farm residents on our Facebook page, and I think most of the concerns was that, well, we'd rather seen a Chick-fil-A, or we'd rather seen a Red Lobster or an Italian restaurant, or something, or maybe a Publix or something of that nature. But I understand the developer's right to do what he wants to with the property and get the maximum ROI that he can out of the property. I hope we can make this, aesthetically beautiful, that our citizens and the residents that are behind this commercial development as possible as the Northern Gateway to our community. Of course, and I agree with Ms. Landers. Who we've been friends for many years. I like commercial development. I think that's good. But there's also varieties of commercial development. There's office buildings, and then there's fast food restaurants. Obviously, I'd rather see something like a business park, like you'd see in Brentwood or Maryland Farms or something of that nature. But again, that's I'm not the property owner. I'm not the developer. I'd like to see. I know this is the one of maybe many developments that this Planning Commission is going to review and make some recommendations to City Council. I hope that we can encourage as much landscaping and trees and greenways as much as possible, screening in the rear as we exit the neighborhood, that we don't have an eyesore there. I'm glad to see that from what I saw of the drawings, that it's going to be brick. I think that's as you said, Chairman Goetz, something stately, and I'm glad to see that. Last thing I would say is safetiness. If you haven't driven down Honey Farms Way, I encourage you, next time you're out that way, drive down it. We really don't have a really good, I don't want to say good egress, but it can be narrow going in and narrow coming out. There's a medium with grass in the middle. And, our concern is if something happens, and maybe I don't know if we can in this project, but in other projects down the road is try to maximize the ingress and egress width of those easements. I don't know what can be done at this point since it was developed by Mr. Raines, but we're concerned about fire trucks, emergency vehicles, being able to have access. I mean, there's a lot of building going on right now, and we're having to go around dump trucks and things of that nature. I'm just concerned about emergency vehicles getting in and out, and the safetiness there. So, anyway, I appreciate your time, and thank you for the opportunity to hear our concerns, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. DuBois. Appreciate that. And once again, thank you, Ms. Landers. It was kind of a breath of fresh air to hear someone in support. So I appreciate that. And I'd like to just add, so, on that note, with speaking of the commercial piece, I think when this came before, was asking for a rezone to just a blanket zoning. That was my concerns as well, was to maybe we would lose that ability to ensure that it remains commercial. So I applaud the applicant, staff for working on this. So that being said, Mr. Coleman, do you have anything? I didn't know if you were.
No, sir.
Okay. I would ask a question, maybe just to kind of touch base on this, maybe for Mr. Harper, because it was mentioned about a red light. At what stage will a red light be going on this particular development?
It is supposed to be in before the commercial frontage, once all the residential is complete. Kind of switching positions now with the commercial coming before the residential is all complete in the townhome section. It would probably meet warrants now. I believe the owner's desire is to put the signal in at this time. We have plans in front of us to rework the whole entrance, and those are almost to an approvable state. I think we're waiting on a resubmittal right.
So with whatever motion we have here, would it be that Is there anything on potential reworks with adjoining this property that some redesigns of left turn, right turns and stuff like that need to occur, or?
They are occurring. I mean,
They are
they've been submitted and are under review.
Okay.
Do you feel as though the light needs to be included in this, or is it? Because we've kind of gotten, as you described there, we've gotten a little bit out of schedule.
We have, in order to know that for certain, you would have to redo a warrant analysis to see if the current traffic, the background traffic that's there, plus the addition of this one quick serve restaurant would meet all the applicable warrants for the intersection.
I believe the applicant is coming forward now.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I'm Drew Smith with Equitas Management Group. We are the developer on the property. Glenn, I'm pretty sure the traffic impact study shows that the fast food warrants the traffic signal.
It does, assuming the residential is complete, but I mean, it would more than likely meet.
Well, and I thought about asking you this earlier. I don't know if my traffic impact study included all those new townhomes that Lennar's building on the south side of Honey Farm Way. I don't know.
It does.
Does it? Okay. But I will add, McDonald's is not going to open without that light. That's a requirement of mine to McDonald's. So that's why our traffic signal design is done. We're waiting on the improvements to the road to be approved by staff, and then the traffic signal will go to staff and then go to DOT. But my plan is to get that traffic signal in as soon, hopefully by the end of the year.
Okay.
Which will be ahead of McDonald's open.
So you could condition the CO then with installation of the traffic signal.
Okay. Yeah. So then based upon that, and the applicant is aware and willing and wanting to do the traffic light, then I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all technical comments, conditioned on the CO being held off until the traffic signal is installed and working.
Second.
Got a motion and a second by Dr. Martin. Any further discussion?
If I could just say one thing, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, I just want to say thank you for your commitment to sort of bringing back a project that would meet muster. I know that there's been some there have been some meetings where this didn't go as well, but I think the final product here is a testament to your willingness to work with those who had some opinions outside of even just this planning commission. And Mr. Du Bois, I'd also say thank you because you and a group that were here during some of the initial phases of this, I think your efforts have led to a better overall product of what we're getting. So kudos to both sides for bringing this and coming in this manner. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goat.
Aye. Request is approved. Brings us to other business.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say, I just got a text message from the city manager who suggested perhaps if our business was concluded that we go ahead and adjourn the meeting as a result of the weather warnings. Although I think it would be prudent to say that if you are in the building and you're in the basement, you're probably in one of the safest spots in all of Columbia that you could currently be. So I would advise against leaving unless you just absolutely have to, as it appears that we're under the warning until 5:45. So I think we can keep City Hall open at least until that point, Mr. Keltner.
Yes, sir.
And please be safe. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn with a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will call the vote.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams, Mr. Goat.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.